community garden. It's been here since 2009, and it's the idea of it mostly is to be an area for like communal learning, like exchange and learning, and it was set up in 2009. In 2008, Robert, one of the founders, went to Cuba. He was working as a film, working in film somehow, I'm not sure exactly what, at that time, and he found himself in Cuba. And the situation in Cuba was that there were all sorts of community gardening projects going on, like on all, basically on any bit of available land, people were growing fruit and vegetables. And that had come about because with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Cuba didn't have any access anymore to cheap or affordable oil, and they had a massive crisis because they couldn't continue the conventional agriculture, which needs oil for transport of products, for fertilizers. They had a massive food crisis. They couldn't continue producing the food that they needed. They also couldn't get access to food the way they had done before, from imports. And so the government suddenly said, okay, just use all the land you can find and start growing your own stuff, because we don't know what else to do. So people just kind of had to make the best of it, and they just kind of started growing, and it worked out really well because they kind of had the time and they had the community kind of cohesion to make it work. And so Robert saw this and he thought, wow, I wonder if I can do something a little bit like this in Berlin. And so when he got back, he started looking for a space where he could start a community garden. And he kind of met a lot with like town planners and compost toilets builders and all sorts of different people. And he also teamed up with his friend Marco, who was studying, or who had finished, I think, studying political science, and so knew a bit about sort of structures, politics in the city and stuff. And they looked at a few locations, and then they found this one. And if you can imagine this ground, this space, with nothing on it except for these pebbles, this gravel, and like a few shoots, just shoots of these trees, which were much, much smaller because they grow pretty quickly. So apart from that, nothing else here at all. Except for one important other thing that was here, which was loads of garbage, loads of rubbish. And so they talked to Berlin, because this land belonged to, and still belongs to, the city of Berlin. And they said, look, you know, seems like nothing's happening with this space. How about we like rent it from you, and we want to start a community garden. So they got the space for a year contract, and they advertised in like some local papers for people to come and help if anyone was interested in starting a community garden. And they fixed up one weekend when people could just turn up and clear the space of all the rubbish that was on here. And on that weekend, completely to their surprise, in total about 200 people just kind of turned up from nowhere and helped clear the space, and worked really, really hard. And then that was the beginning of loads of people getting involved and getting like connected to the garden and to the project, and then it was kind of off. And so since then the garden has been really benefited from a lot of voluntary work and engagement by just anybody really who comes along, because most people who come here love it, and if they in any way can, they like to get involved. And so we have different ways for that to happen, like internships, and then the main way is that 2 days a week on Thursdays from 3 till 6, and on Saturdays from 11 till 2 is the community gardening days. And then anybody can just turn up and we have like a list of things that we decide in advance that need to be done and that are nice to do. Hopefully they're nice to do. Normally they are. And then anyone just turns up and joins in. And per year, about 1,000 people come to those community gardening days and join in other ways.